I'm just going to say it. Tires are one of the most underrated components on the vehicle in terms of your vehicle's performance and keeping you safe out there. And on that note, tire dealers aren't getting enough credit. It's a tough business, often involving long hours and slim margins. So with around 6 dozen stores and growing, New England's VIP Tires and Service is a pristine example of how to succeed in this business. The acquisitions and partnerships and expansions and store renovations at VIP just don't stop coming, which leads me to ask, who's steering this ship anyway?
Tim Winkeler.
Tim, our CEO.
Oh yeah, meet Tim Winkeler, President and CEO of VIP Tires and Service. Walking into one of VIP's stores next to this guy is as close to a rock star's welcome as you'll ever see. Elvis is dead? I don't think so. Whatever songwriting gene John Lennon or Brian Wilson or Freddie Mercury had that give them that ability to buckle your knees from the first note, Tim's got whatever the vulcanized rubber version of that is. He's just that good at running a successful tire business.
I love the tire business because ultimately it's how we help people. And I'm huge on safety, vehicle safety and driver safety. I think tires go way underappreciated by most people for how important they are for helping a vehicle be safe on the road. Outside of tires and brakes, there's not much else that's more important for a vehicle, for whether it's myself driving or one of my loved ones driving or everybody else on the road.
But you don't have to take my word for it. In fact, Tim was gracious enough to give me a full day of his time, literally starting at the crack of dawn to capture the minutia of what it takes to be considered a true blue, all-American vehicle care rock star. It was like attending my own personal tire shop fantasy camp. Now, okay, let's make one thing clear. VIP's success is surely not simply due to the work of one man, and Tim will be the last person to take any of the credit. He doesn't rule the VIP kingdom from some Game of Thrones style chair built from stacks of tires, but that's actually what makes him a rock star. Ready to get this rock and roll train moving? Well, you're welcome to hang out with us, but that means following Tim's routine to the letter. And to do that, we're waking up when Tim wakes up. Tim gets up early, every day. You want to be a rock star in the tire industry? You rise and shine before the roosters sing, at least if you're Tim. As it turns out, it's not about how early you rise, it's more about establishing a routine and keeping to it. It's a lesson he's ingrained in his son Sam, who typically joins his dad on a morning run, and he also happens to be a VIP employee. For Tim, these runs are for him, for family, and are for that daily reminder that running a successful business doesn't come from spending 5 more minutes under the covers.
And when you have that mental discipline, when you can, do the right thing, do what you know is right. So many people that I talk to when we talk about running, it's like, oh yeah, I know I should be running. I know I should do this, I know I should do that. And so for me, running is just one of those things that over time, obviously I've been doing it now for, 15 years. And so it's become something that it's easier for me to do today, but it's still not easy. I still want to stay in bed. I still don't want to get out and run so that, yeah, exactly. It's comfortable in bed, but it's that discipline to say, I know what the right thing to do is, let's go do the right thing.
You'll quickly learn that Tim is always keeping an eye on ways to tie in the things he loves in his personal life into his VIP family. With the obvious benefits regular exercise brings, incentivizing his staff to live healthier lives was a no-brainer.
From a business perspective, it goes with the healthcare, health insurance, that's always in the news. The expense of health insurance is unbelievable. So as a company, our health insurance expense continues to go up and up every year. And, unfortunately, it's become really expensive for our employees as well because of the way the industry operates. And so one of the strategies that companies tend to do is try to put in some sort of wellness programs that help employees live healthier lives, whether it's smoking cessation or other even, mental health assistance, things like that, helping people just live healthier lives. is a big part of trying to keep the cost of those health insurance programs lower for employees as well as for the company.
I let Tim and Sam hit the pavement without me. I'd have loved to go with them, but dang it, I was wearing pants. You can't run in pants. Take it from me though, I really wanted to go on that run. I decided instead to get a head start heading to one of VIP's tire shops to see firsthand how the company operates. Tim gave me directions to their store in Auburn, Maine, a newer shop renovated out of an old pool hall tucked behind an O'Reilly's, and it's already one of the company's top volume stores. Once Tim arrived, he introduced me to the store's manager, Bob, who once owned his own automotive service shop but joined VIP about 3 years back to head up operations at this location.
So what's the experience been like as opposed to, running your own shop?
So a lot less stress.
Yeah.
I love it here. I've had talks with Rob, right? Rob's like, "What, you're gonna go back work for yourself?" I said, "No, I like it here, right? If someone bounces a check, we have a department that handles that. If the deposit gets lost, we have a department that handles that. And I don't need to worry about it, It's not taking food off my table. And being such a big place with so many locations, we can really serve the customers, right? If I'm running my own shop and a customer comes back and the tires are worn out, I can't live without those tires. But here I can. We had a customer, the actual one I just showed you, we installed those tires. He had one alignment done 8 or 9 months ago, and the tires are wearing, and he thought happy with the store he went to, but we get in a set of Goodyear Duratrack takeoffs for really cheap today. And I think we installed tires and mounted and alignment and everything for $600 on a truck. And that's cheaper than the no-name buy 3 get 1 that he got back in November.
Yeah.
So he's much more happy with VIP as a whole, right? And if he has problems anywhere in New England, he can take care of it.
As we walked around the store, it got easy to connect the dots that led to the company's satisfied customer base. The typical friendly amenities like free Wi-Fi and coffee were just the rubber sprinkles on top of this tire shop sundae. The show-stopping ice cream here was the clean, open shop floor, the 5 ASE certified master technicians on staff, the beautifully organized warehouse. It all came together in a way that practically gave customers no choice but to come back. It was around this time, after hanging out with Bob for a while, that it dawned on me. Tim might be a rock star, but you're known by the company you keep. Guys like Bob are rock stars too, and Tim depends on these bandmates to keep the rock show customers expect to see going night after night. Think of Tim like David Lee Roth. One of the greatest frontmen of all time? Sure, but Diamond Dave isn't selling any one-man a cappella records. At least, I hope not. Yeesh.
Yeah, we're blessed to have a great team of leaders in our business, starting with John Cork, our owner. John is a third-generation owner within the tire and service business. His grandfather was in the tire and service business 96 years ago in Watertown, Massachusetts, where we have a VIP store today. And so as third-generation owner, John has a real appreciation for how to best take care of customers and run a business that's in the tire and service business. Gary McCausland, who's our Senior Vice President over operations, he's been running tire and service businesses for 35 years. And so he has a ton of experience very specifically in this industry, knows best practices, knows exactly how to help people do their best and what metrics to measure and how to help support people. So we have a really great senior leadership team in place. And then, over the last 10 or 12 years, we've made it a very specific effort to promote from within. So working for Gary, we have 2 regional directors and then several district managers. Every one of them have been promoted. They've earned their way into running multi-unit stores for us. And so because they have such an appreciation for what it's like to either be a technician, as some of them started, or to work on the counter as a service advisor and then work their way up to manager and then ultimately district manager or regional director, we have such a great team of leaders who are really the ones who are sweating the details every day.
Now, we've already established that Tim doesn't subscribe much to a top-down leadership style, so it should come as no surprise that he and the rest of the VIP staff do their best to carry that tone into their customer relations. VIP counter professionals are taught that rather than tell customers what they need, They should instead educate them to make an informed decision on their own.
Yeah, and one of the kind of cultural values of the company here at VIP is educating customers. You won't hear us talk a lot about selling. You'll hear us talk about educating customers. And in the case of the tire business, we've got this emerging, category of all-weather, right? I mean, the last 5 years, we've seen an explosion of all-weather tires, and especially up here in New England, with our snowy winters and the road conditions, all-weather has become a great option for many customers, but that's all part of the process, is educating customers so that they can make a great decision about what tire is best for them. And that's really, what you'll hear us talk a lot about here, is that our job every day is to just educate customers and then let them make a great decision. I would say that what I'm most proud of that our team here at VIP has accomplished is our culture. It's really, we're a family business, and we've always been a family business. As I said, John traces his ownership 3 generations for the business. But I can tell you 13 years ago when I got here and we were still in the auto parts business as well as the tire and service business, the culture, this idea of having a team culture where everybody's on the same team and we're all supporting each other, that culture wasn't really in place very strong 13 years ago. And it took us selling off the parts business and really being able to focus on a very customer-focused, people-centric business like tires and service. When you're just in the tire and service business, your people are everything. If you don't have great people, you're not going to win in this business.
I asked Tim, what is one thing you're keeping an eye on that will most profoundly affect your business over the next 5 to 10 years?
The right to repair is a big deal when you start talking about the next 5 or 10 years. And so we've got to make sure that our technicians maintain the ability and the right to diagnose and repair all the vehicles that are on the road and that are going to be on the road over the next 10 years.
Now, if you know Tim at all, this answer shouldn't surprise you in the slightest. He has quite the reputation as a staunch advocate for the right to repair movement, and as a resident of the state of Maine, it's one that is certainly dear to his heart. See, Maine was the second state behind Massachusetts to have the right to repair initiative qualify for the ballot. Soon, each of Maine's 1 million registered voters will have the opportunity to decide for themselves if they want to have the right to access the data that their vehicles are producing. It's a passion that practically runs through Tim's veins, and I wanted to feel that passion. So I respectfully asked him if he would hike up to the State House in Augusta with me so I could experience that high voltage energy too. I have to say, it was worth the trek. Standing in front of that building gives you some founding father energy. Democracy!
I got started because as a member of the board of directors for the New England Tire and Service Association, NETSA, that was the organization that our industry was working through in order to start getting these state level questions on the ballots. And so through NETSA, I was contacted and I talked with people from the Auto Care Association, from NETSA, and from a few other organizations. The Car Coalition was another one. So we were all of the same mind that Maine needed to be the next state, that we needed to get this ballot in front of the voters in. And so at that point, when I knew it was going to be Maine, and VIP is obviously the largest operator in Maine, it made sense for me to become a leader of the coalition.
How many signatures did you need and how many did you end up with?
So we needed about 65,000 signatures.
That's a lot.
It's roughly 10% of the number in the state of Maine. It's roughly 10% the number of people who voted in the last governor's election. Okay. That's how they come up with the number that you need. We collected in excess of 75,000 signatures, and that happened in about 3 or 4 week period. That did not take us long. We had 90 days to collect them, and it didn't even take a month.
Interesting. So I wanted to bring up a point of confusion, I would say, surrounding right to repair in automotive right now. Recently, there's been news that has come out that has said, from different aftermarket automotive associations that there's been some kind of deal made or pact made with the manufacturers that seems to indicate that right to repair is no longer really an issue. Can you speak to that at all?
Yeah, it's unfortunate. This is really misleading news. And so what has happened is that the car manufacturers, through their lobbying organization, which comes across and appears to be an association in the automotive world. It's really, like I said, it's a legal and a lobbying organization. What they've done is they've released a memo in conjunction with a couple other organizations, as you mentioned, saying that there has been a memorandum of understanding that has been agreed to upon within these three organizations. The first thing to know is that memorandum of understanding that they're talking about is essentially the same memorandum of understanding that our industry signed 10 years ago, which excluded telematics data.
Interesting.
So they've reissued essentially the same language that has already been in place for 10 years, and that excluded telematics data. It excludes access to the wireless data. And so what our bills in Massachusetts and now Maine and other states are lining up, what our bills are trying to do is make sure that the wireless data, that telematics data, is included in a consumer's right to control that data flow. And this memorandum of understanding that has been put out into publication as if there's a new right to repair agreement is not at all a new right to repair agreement. It is a rehash of old language that does nothing for the independent repair shop of today to get access to the data that we will need for these vehicles that are coming off the assembly lines today.
Sure. So what is the next step in Maine at this point?
So the next step in Maine is for it to be on the ballot. So it's going to be on the ballot in our November elections. And so, I'm sure come the fall, as we get closer to that election date, there will start to be some, things put in action to improve awareness. We've had our signs in our stores. We've done very passive awareness campaigns to try to help people be aware that right to repair is going to be on the ballot. As we get closer to that voting date, I think what people will see is a lot more activity in terms of potentially both sides trying to tell their story and making the voters in Maine aware that this question is going to be on the ballot, and trying to educate those voters about, which way they believe they should be voting for the right to repair bill.
With a white-hot spotlight on Maine, Tim's tireless dedication to advocating for right to repair might be one of his most rock and roll attributes, empowering his audience, VIP's customers, with his gift for driving change for the better through a chorus of service and education. With its growing network of stores and a relentless pursuit to better the tire industry, VIP's tour of excellence is one of those that personifies the rock and roll all night and party everyday lifestyle. Not in a chaotic, tongue hanging out of its mouth kind of way. Rather, thanks to pulling double duty as a recognizable frontman and orchestral maestro, we recognize VIP Tires and Service President and CEO Tim Winkeler as the very definition of what makes the tire industry deserving of the highest levels of respect. Tim, you're a rock star.
Vehicle Care RockStars is powered by Babcox Media in partnership with Apex.